Welcome to Light It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah M. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Light It Up. I am your host, Dr. Aginah M. I'm so excited about today's episode because I have a very special guest, my brother and friend, Mandene T. Muhammad. You all know him from the Coalition for the Remembrance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, C.R.O.E, Legacy Men's Boutique, and his talk show, weekly program, Elevated Talk, which comes on every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. on WVON 1690 AM. Brother Mandene, thank you so much for joining me today for Light It Up. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing well by Allah's grace. I'm excited. I know we've been trying to make this happen for a little bit, but I appreciate your patience. I know we both have very full and challenging schedules. So, what better time than today to actually make this happen. So I'm excited.
Awesome. And I see that you are in C.R.O.E TV studios. So what a fitting place for you to be with this interview. As I alluded to at the beginning of introduction, I didn't tell the people how far back we go, but we go back probably about 30 years, if my math is correct, maybe.
Yeah. As long as I've been a member, yes, ma'am. That sounds about right. 30 years. I came in 91.
Okay.
So, yes, ma'am.
All right. This year makes 30 years. So we, our paths crossed because, as you mentioned, you walked through the doors of C.R.O.E, which was once located on 91st and Ashland. And I believe you were probably 16, 17 years old?
I was 17 years old going into my senior year of high school.
And you quickly, I'm going to say from my perspective, quickly came into the fold, maybe. I mean, I could probably have my own memories based upon my experience, but I know that you definitely became a part of our family. So, many people, I refer to you as my brother. You're not my biological brother, but you certainly have been one who has been there for me to talk to. You've always given me sound advice, and we crack a few jokes every now and then.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No, it's I came in 91. Didn't come directly into the fold. I was a young brother. I was interested in this. I didn't come in contact with your father to maybe a week or so to me coming to the doors. But it was one particular instant that stuck with me, and I think really solidified me being a part of C.R.O.E. And it was a Sunday, and I've known for running a little late. I've gotten better over the years. So I was running late, and I knew by the time I got there, either the class would be over or, close to being over. So I didn't want to waltz up in there like that. So I went back home, and I was on the bus at the time, and I received a phone call from Brother Munir, and as he does with a lot of people, in particular young men, who shows an interest in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't pick up. I don't know if the phone wasn't near me or what, but he'll quick to leave a message. So he was like, brother, you told me you was coming out today. I didn't see you. I'm disappointed, and hung up. So when I checked my message, maybe a little later, I'm listening to him. I'm like, who do we think he is? But, I thought about it like, man, for him to even take the time to call, So I went, and of course I went back the following Sunday. And after that, just listening to the teachings, and of course, as a young person and, wet behind the ears, I didn't know too much of anything, but I knew what I was hearing made sense. And I just made a decision in my life at that point that although I may not understand everything that I'm hearing, it makes more sense. And just because I don't understand it does not mean it's not the truth. So I'm going to stick with this until I get more understanding. And that's what happened. And as far as coming into the fold, as I like to call it, the inner circle, working with Brother Munir, that didn't happen until we moved over from 9145 South Ashland to where we currently are now, 2435 West 71st Street. And I just slowly started working closely with your father, Brother Munir, and it just kind of went from there.
So let me ask you, at 16, 17 years old, what was happening during that time that made you decide to come into the doors of C.R.O.E.? Was there something in particular that you were searching for? Had someone suggested that you come to C.R.O.E.? How did you first learn about C.R.O.E.?
I was definitely interested. I was raised in a church, but as I grew older, it was a lot of questions that were not being addressed, not being answered. And most young men, we just tend to sway away from the church because there was nothing really there attracting me. So, but still, I was kind of like on a journey, I guess, to find knowledge, and really didn't realize it. But I guess I was into more reading at that time. And, of course, hip hop was strong during that time, and it was more of a conscious element as far as the music. And so I was listening to a lot of the conscious artists, Public Enemy, Poor Righteous Teachers, and a lot of those had underlining tones of Islam in there. And so I started looking at, bookstores were really huge back then. And so I started going around to different bookstores. And so I would just be on my bookstore excursions, and anything with the crescent on there or the name Muhammad, I would get. It didn't matter what it was. So I just had a bunch of books I was reading. And one day on my way home, again, I was riding the bus. I didn't have a car at that time. So I lived around 1200 West 96th Street over in that area. And so I was taking the bus home on Ashland. And it just so happens the bus was slowing down, and it actually came to a stop. It picked somebody up. And I just kind of looked, because I was headed south, but I kind of looked over to my left and I saw the Star and Crescent, and I saw the name, Coalition for the Remembrance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I was like, I should go there. I was getting ready to get off, but then I thought about it, like, you only got one more ride left after this. So I just come back later at another time. So, and I don't recall if I came that next weekend. It wasn't long before I went back. And I went there, and I think it was a couple of members there, both neither here at the time, but I got a couple of books, and it just kind of went from there. I was going to the mosque at the time, but I didn't really feel a connection there. So, and I don't know why. It's just like it was something that was missing. I don't know if it was a large group. It's like I was just being, hustled on, not hustled, but moved on in without really a good understanding. It could have been just me as a young person, just not having that understanding, because I used to go to the mosque all the time on Sunday, listen to the lectures, and come back, to school that Monday, talking to friends and whatnot, trying to teach them, not really knowing what I'm talking about. And so it just kind of went from there. But the difference for me at that time, I think that really drew me to C.R.O.E. also, is that it was a smaller operation and had that more of a classroom feel to it. And so I think that's what attracted me more so. And so yeah, that's what did it. So, and like I said, then just coming to the point where, I think this is a good fit for me. And so I'm just going to stick with this.
Right. Yeah, I think it's important to note that one of the distinct differences is the fact that C.R.O.E. was set up like a classroom setting. Today we hear people say, come as you are. And to a certain extent, I think the doors were open to anyone who wanted to learn about the messenger and the Nation of Islam. So, from what I recall, we weren't trying to convert you day one or anything like that. There was plenty of information that was at your disposal in terms of the tapes, the books. And then you had people who were going to sit down and talk to you and answer your questions. So, in one of those more intimate settings, you may feel more comfortable with asking questions versus when you're in a large group, you know, you don't want to ever feel like you're the only one who doesn't know, who doesn't understand. So I think the level of making people feel comfortable in learning at their own pace has been key to the success of C.R.O.E. as well, in terms of allowing people to come in and get the foundation, because you can listen to someone talk, but if you're not studying or asking questions to gain a clear understanding, then it's you're not.
I agree. And I think because I was like that also in school, you know, was going to ask a question in front of everyone, but I would go up to the teacher, you know, at the end of the class, or, you know, later on during the school day. And, so that personal interaction, because, you know, I'm more visual, I'm more of a visual learner, you know, I'm more of a one-on-one type person. I may have to see it a couple of times, you know, before I really get the hang of it. And I guess at that time, you know, I was more shy. And so I didn't want to be on front street, so to speak. So it was, you know, I had my hangups back then as a young person.
Right. So let me ask you this though: how did I can't remember when C.R.O.E. moved over to 71st Street, but how did you, as a young man, end up becoming, I guess so, intimately involved in the operation? Everyone who knows you, if you saw my father, then they saw you. So you became what was known as his right-hand person. So, you know, even though my father was, I think, accessible, but people still understood that in order to get to him, they had to come through you. So how did you end up in that role? When I think about it, sometimes I had to come through you myself to get. I remember I would call you to try and, you know, gauge the temperature. Also gauge the temperature to see if it was the right time for me to call with my shenanigans, I guess, to ask questions. So how did you come to have that role?
I think first I started traveling with him, and I don't remember how it came about exactly. I do remember him, and he would joke about it, you know, having to come, because my father was deceased, my mother was deceased. I was staying with my father's that side of the family. And so my uncle, my beloved uncle, Uncle Eldridge, who was more like he was a man of the house, and so he was a person that one would have to come to. And so, you know, he had to come as if he was asking me out on a date. You know, it was him and I think the other two co-founders, and may have been one other brother, because he wanted to me to travel with him out of town. I think we may have been going to Virginia somewhere. And because this is prior to you going away to college. Not going to college. You didn't go nowhere.
I didn't go away anywhere. I wanted to go to Virginia.
Right.
Everybody made sure that didn't happen.
Yeah. You can thank your fellow Black people.
Yes.
But so he came and he talked to my uncle, and you know, my uncle just wanted to, because I was close to being an adult, but still, you know, I was under their care. So he approved it, and it just kind of went from there. And a lot of times I was as far as I would start being at C.R.O.E. more. And I worked a job. I had a job. I worked at this little boutique on 87th Street. But I was come over to C.R.O.E. afterwards, or on my off days, just come there and just be around. And I don't know, I guess maybe just get comfortable with me, or, you know, I showed that interest or showed that loyalty early on. But as they say, it just happened organically, you know, and to the point where I could gauge him and know, you know, as you said, you would have to call in and get the temperament of what's going on, and I'll let you know yay or nay. And it's not just with that, that's with other things, you know, a lot of things I would, and not hiding things from him, but, you know, what to present, when to present it, because it was so much going on. You know, I tried to make sure that that it was at the proper time, or if somebody wanted something, and I know if it was of good, you know, but if it wasn't in the right frame of mind or something else was wrong, fall back, let's bring it up at another time so he'd be in a better frame of mind to receive it and get a better understanding. And so that just kind of came with being around him more and just, listening a whole lot more. And I think to a fault, I have to reflect that, I didn't ask enough questions or I didn't inquire enough. But all praise is due to Allah, I still have the ability to reflect on certain things and see how I can navigate. And even by looking at old interviews and thinking back of just being with him and just learning. And as the teaching say, just settle on the best part and just go from there, because he certainly was an example of tenacity, loyalty, and relentless work ethic. So it's a lot of gems that I can reflect on with him. So I know I kind of went a long ways to answer that question, but I hope I made sense.
No. It was great. Actually, what I was thinking about, the work, and you mentioned the work ethic as well. And, we often say to you, and you mentioned being loyal. And I do want to say that I think clearly you have to have a gift to be able to, of course you can learn somebody by being around them, but there were those of us, family members who sometimes couldn't gauge my father's temperament and would bring up the wrong thing at the wrong time. But to have that ability, because my father was a very complex man, that, sometimes people didn't really understand his intentions or the way he moved and how he operated. So, I just think that just shows the type of person that you are in terms of having that ability to pay close attention, to have a good understanding of how a person operates and to be able to navigate in that space and then help other people as well. But it also made me think about the work ethic that you mentioned, because you're a workaholic, just like him, and very seldom do you take time, to rest or what have you. But one thing that you have been able to do is, well, you've done a couple of things. You've done, you opened up your Legacy Men's Boutique, which is in the Bronzeville area here in Chicago. I know you mentioned at one point in time, which I didn't know this, that you worked at a boutique when you were younger. So what made you decide to open up a men's boutique?
That came much later. As I got older and just it's still that influence of Brother Munir and the messenger. It wasn't so much opening up something to make money or just to say I have a business, but I was in that spirit of giving back, because I know how blessed I was. And it's so many examples. I reflect back even before we moved over here, we were on Ashland at the old location, and my family, on my father's side, they weren't rich, but they were comfortable. And so I say that to say, they could certainly afford what they wanted. And so I just kind of mentioned to Brother Munir, because I was starting Harold Washington College at that time. And before I knew it, he was raising money in C.R.O.E. to get me books. And I was so overwhelmed, I didn't have sense enough to tell him, well, I can afford them. I'll just let you know I was starting school. And so, but I appreciated it. But it just showed me, again, that when he took an interest in you and took a liking to you, and he showed that you were trying to do something, and in particular, when it came to this teaching, he'll go out of his way. And so that always stuck with me as well. So as I got older and that spirit of giving back, I reflect on my aunt also, who became my legal guardian on the death of my mother. And I used to see how she struggled as far as, making sure that not only me, but she had my brother and other cousins that she raised. She never had any biological children of her own, but she would go to these different, as they call them back then, rumored cells or thrift stores and things of that, so garage sales, and to get us things that we needed. And of course, as a young person, you frowned upon that, didn't want anybody else's clothes and this type of stuff, not realizing that if you the youngest, or you're not coming from a rich family, you're gonna wear somebody else's clothes.
Right.
So that just came with it. So I started collecting like suits and shirts and whatnot, just in the spirit of wanting to give back. But I never gave out anything. I was becoming a collector. I just had a basement full of stuff. And so it was a friend at the time, a sister, had made the suggestion that I should think about opening up a men's resale boutique. And she was the type of person who would do that type of research. And she was kind of like you, analytical, and did the research, do the numbers and whatnot. She was just saying there was no place on the South Side that catered to men specifically. And I noticed that as well. You go to a lot of these stores, whether it's consignment or retail, and they have majority women's things, but very little men, if anything at all. And so it was a market for it at the time. So I just kind of jumped out there. But again, because of the influence of Brother Munir, those relationships that he had, it was Mr. Hickenbottom's building that I happened to be in. And I was actually waiting on some food at that time. And I was just kind of walking around, and I saw the space that was available, and made a phone call. And I guess I got that friendly nod that most wouldn't get, because of that relationship. And I was in there, most people say you got to have a plan and write it down. And I should have, but I just kind of dove into it head first. And, so it was something a little different. Brother Neil used to always mention a joke that, he sold suits out of his trunk. He used to always say, "Oh, I don't have any overhead," but I was just trying to tell him, we got different clientele. I'm trying to cater to those who really can't afford it, but he, he didn't mind it, but, he was selfish in the sense that you didn't want nothing taken away from that focus on C.R.O.E. and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and doing this work, because people can get it easily caught up. And a lot of times with us as a people, especially those that are involved, the first thing that'll go is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and C.R.O.E. And I've been seeing that over the years. And I've had a lot of people say, well, I just need to go get myself together before I come back. And I was like, that's like a drug addict saying I need to go get cleaned up before I go to the drug rehab. It just don't make any sense, so be as it may, that's the way to go. But it never, I always looked at it, because I adjusted my hours to make sure they wouldn't conflict with this. And I just saw it as an extension, because I wouldn't have it if it wasn't because of Brother Munir and C.R.O.E. So I just saw it as another vehicle, as a representation of as far as what we do, to show that, you got somebody within the organization that's doing something good, that's, successful as what he's doing, and, able to still pull people in, show that representation. Right. It's not just Munir, a couple of people that's doing well.
Right. I mean, and then also you are adhering to, what we've been taught, making sure that we have food, clothing, and shelter for our people. So
Exactly. And that's something that Brother Munir always talked about, as long as you're doing something that's involving food, clothing, and shelter, because we all have to eat, we all need some place to live, and we all got to wear clothes. So if you do something that's involved in one of those three, you never, you always have a job, or, you won't be in want.
Right. And while we're talking about Legacy Men's Boutique, why don't you tell folks where you are located and how they can contact you?
Well, we're located in the heart of Bronzeville. It's 107 East 47th Street, close to Michigan. I like to say right next to Abundance Bakery. And I mention Abundance Bakery because they're like a staple in that area. And so for a lot of people that's familiar, as soon as I mention Abundance, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what that's it. And so I'm right there, right on 47th Street. And so I'm right in the thick of things. So, I find a great joy to be in that area, because it's historic. It's Bronzeville is to Black Chicago as to Harlem, is to, Black New Yorkers. So I think it's great, even though that there's a little gentrification, noise being made, but hopefully the people there will be able to hold on.
And if I'm not mistaken, there are times, aside from your regular business hours, but you also will schedule appointments for clients if they want to just have that one-on-one shopping experience as well, correct?
Yeah, primarily on Sunday. I'm open 6 days a week, but Sunday I do say by appointments only. So if it's not conflicting with something that I'm doing here at C.R.O.E, I will make adjustments, for that. Or, it could be, a day like today. We are speaking on a so-called holiday. So if it's a day like today, if I'm available, because there are some people, that will want to come through. But as I told someone, I'm not one of those major stores, and I'm Black, so I'm not, one of the other people. They can open up all the time and be okay. I open up and, I may get one customer. The rest of the hours, I'm just sitting there twiddling my thumbs, wasting the electricity. So, I'm not going to take that chance right now. I'm confident enough to believe that I will be in that light, soon enough. But even then, we have to see. So, if one calls and I'm available, I hustle on over there. That's that spirit of Munir. I keep stuff in my trunk as well if they want to meet up somewhere. So I'm not opposed to that. So, I paid attention, so I know how to operate.
And how can they contact you? Got a phone number?
Definitely legacymensboutique.com. The address again is 107 East 47th Street.
The number is 872-228-1871.
Again, that's 872-228-1871.
So you've got, you still do the work for C.R.O.E. You have Legacy Men's Boutique. And then you, was it earlier this year or no, actually it was last year in December, right? December 2020. You're coming up to 1 year anniversary of launching Elevated Talk, which is a weekly radio program that comes on every Tuesday. So the same day as Light It Up. I tackle the folks in the morning and you get them at night to, from 9 p.m. until midnight, correct?
Yes,
from WVON. So what made you decide, Mr. Muhammad, to launch Elevated Talk? This was a little bit out of your element and your comfort zone, I would say, because those of us who know you, you can talk, but Yeah.
Again, Brother Munir, he makes sure, even when we was on Ashland again, he used to say, you should record yourself. You should talk and record yourself. And I'm not a big fan of my voice, so I tried it maybe once, and I heard my voice. I ain't gonna do that. So, but the training from him and to make sure that we're able to, even with the television crew, he always wanted to make sure that we were never held hostage by anyone. If he scheduled guests, he made sure that somebody will also be down there just in case they were late or didn't show up. Never want to be held hostage. You want to make sure that each member of the production crew knew all of the positions. And so, again, he did not want to be held hostage. And even if he would be late or for whatever reason not make it, it was somebody that would be able to talk. I think for the most part, it may have just been Sister Kim. I can't think of anybody else. I think he may have had Jamil maybe once or twice when we got to the current studio. But for the most part, I think it was Sister Kim. But the point is, he never wanted to be held hostage. Even when he got upset with me at one time, and it was just a miscommunication. When I got to the studio, he had somebody else direct the show instead of me, just to send a message. And I was there that day. So again, just to let you know, I'm not going to be held hostage by anybody. So with that being said, he used to do a radio show also on VON. Actually, they started off, they used to call in all the time.
Right.
And but it went on when we started going to the prisons, the Cook County Jail in particular. He did a show for a whole year dedicated to the young lady in, I think it was Division 4. Dare to Be Different program. So he did a whole show, a whole year for those young ladies. And so just watching, paying attention. But again, you know, any Muslim you can catch, in particular a Muslim man, you catch one-on-one, we can talk. You know, we can hem you up. And even at training during Friday night class, where they would bring us up and speak, not because they think that, you know, we're so brilliant, but to get us in the pattern, or the practice, I should say, of speaking. And there were times that he even had the young brothers go to different high schools and speak. And so all of this training throughout the years is lying dormant. And so to bring it up and to answer your question, it made a year in October of the new location that I'm at now with Legacy. And the great R.J. Dale used to always say of R.J. Dale of Dale Advertising and Marketing. He used to always say that you're going to either advertise going into business or going out of business. And so that stuck with me, especially being at a new location. I had a storefront now where I didn't have one before. My rent is more, so I got to work. Mm-hmm. And so I, again, having a relationship with people because of Brother Munir, I called WVON and I spoke to Pierre Cooper, husband of Melody Span Cooper, and I was talking to him about I was getting some pricing for a commercial for Legacy. And Pierre, you know, he talks kind of smooth and whatnot. He's like, man, you know, I got something even better, man. You know, I got this time slot on. And it just happened to be a Tuesday too. He said, I got this time slot on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. You can come in, you can talk about Legacy. You can talk about, you know, Elijah Muhammad. You can talk about whatever you want to, man. You can come in tonight if you want to. I was like, whoa, slow down, man. That's kind of, I said, for 3 hours by myself. I was like, you know, that's that fear came in, you know, that, you know, where it should have been more confidence. But I was like, now let me think about it and I'll get back to you. So I sought counsel, you know, with a couple of people, and I was like, you know, because he had the offer was for the month of December, as you said earlier. December would be a year, and so I did it. But I would joke, you know, just like the drug dealer, you know, and I decided to keep going. You know, he said that first taste was free, but ongoing is you have to pay for it.
Right.
And so I was hesitant, but I was smart enough to know I can do it by myself, but that late at night, you know, there's no telling. So I thought about someone that could be down there with me, and what better person than Brother Emmanuel Omar, who researches everything and is well learned. And Brother Munir used to travel with Brother Munir a lot and read, you know, a lot of the things that he need to be updated on, and just, you know, just a man that's been around, that's well seasoned. And so I brought him in as my co-host, and it just kind of went from there. And you know, I just, as time, and I'm still getting used to it. I'm still getting out of my comfort zone, but I see that this is just an extension of what Brother Munir was priming us for, because prior to his transition, he was working on something upstairs of the studio for to do several podcast shows. Because he used to even ask me, you know, you want to come on and do a podcast about clothes or something like that, you know, just throwing it out there, you know. And so he had plans for an extension of C.R.O.E. And, you know, as I call it now, no longer C.R.O.E. TV, but more C.R.O.E. Media. Mm-hmm. And so even though VON is not ours, but, you know, the message, what I can say, is ours. And so my message is the foundation is the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but it's to give us as Muslims an additional voice, because, you know, if I don't, then, you know, we get shut out once again. So it just goes back into why we're doing these TV shows. You know, why Brother started doing the TV shows, because everybody wanted to explain us and didn't really know us. Right. And so Elevator Talk is an extension of Muhammad and Friends and the Munir Muhammad Show, C.R.O.E. Media. It's another arm. It's another extension to get our message out. And I just feel it's important. It's rough, you know, 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Sometimes when the guests leave, if they come in, you know, I want to leave with them. But, you know, it's a lot of people are grateful for it. And again, you know, I'm a broker. So that means I have to pay for this slot. I don't work for VON, right, even though they still have their own rules. But it's bringing out that inner Munir Muhammad. That means I got to hustle, get sponsors, you know, for not only not just C.R.O.E., media, but also elevated talk. So it's just really challenging me. And as you said, making me step outside my comfort zone, because I'm used to lobbying on behalf of C.R.O.E for Founders Day, but this is just adding more to it, and it's just showing me what's lying dormant in me. And so I appreciate it, but it's all that training from being around brother Munir all these years. So I'm grateful for it.
And as you mentioned, something that I had no idea that he was even thinking about or talking about having an extension with podcast, and didn't know that when I launched my podcast. But it also just goes to show that a seed can be planted, and sometimes you don't even realize that that seed has been planted, because there are so many things, just speaking personally, that now when I do them, I can see this is either something, I have a reflection of my father. Yeah. So even with us having this conversation today, yeah, it is a so-called holiday. But one thing that I remember I was telling my daughters, I said, okay, I have an interview scheduled. And their response was, really? It's a holiday? And I remember in that instant, I thought about my father and how it didn't matter what day it was. If everybody else is at home cooking or doing whatever, he was over at the studio. There was always working. And people often ask me, how do you have time to do all of the things that you do? I don't know. I just do it, because I feel like if you're laying down too long, that's wasting time anyway. So there's always something to do. And all of us have a different way of disseminating information that at some point will lead people back to the source. So
let me say, and you make an excellent point, because I thought about it today. I'm sitting there like, although we're doing this taping, but it should have been at least one show done today, so that type of thing, it plays on me, because he would have frowned upon that. We got this type of free time, we had to at least do one and a half shows. And then we'd say 1.5. He was like, y'all, you good? And I was like, no, let's finish this up. So it ended up being 2 shows, but something needs to be done. So as they say in the church, we got to get back to that old time religion. But if you think about, that training, because he always was looking for replacements. There was a year that we were doing shows. He had like this, what do you call it? A panel with different people on there. And he would have us on here. I think it was Jamil, Lakila, Thomas Amal. He wasn't the host. I don't recall who the host was, but we did a show. If you remember, you did a show with your children that you had in the school that you had. So, and there was a couple of other shows, but we did at least 5 to 6 shows like that. But that, again, he wasn't verbalizing it, but it was showing, looking for replacements, looking for who was interested. Prince Asiel's son, Brother Yosef, is coming around. He was allowing him to host the shows. Even during that time, he had me host the show for a short period of time. You had Jamil come in from time to time. Of course, Kim, Sister Akila. So, and I think there may have been one other person, even with the commentaries, he had a series of commentaries that he did. He even attempted to get the co-founders to do one at one time. So always looking for replacements or an extension to let the people know that it's more than one of us, it's more than a couple of us. And so that always plays into my head, and just want to keep that thought going, that sense of urgency going, that, hey, we're not relying on one person, and we don't want just one person knowing a position or, doing this or doing that. We want to make sure that we have replacements. Next man or next woman up. That's what we're about.
So you've made some excellent points, and great reminder just of what we had in our midst, in terms of having someone who was not selfish with his knowledge, his understanding, always trying to share it with all of us. And whether or not we understood it, you know, everybody's saying now about understanding the assignment, you know, sometimes you got to sit back and think, you know, did we understand the assignment? You know, some of us did, and some of us, you know, did not. What, as you are approaching 1 year of your talk show, and I know you had a very good show this past week talking about men's mental health. Really appreciate the fact that you decided to tackle that topic, but what are your goals for as you embark upon your 1 year anniversary of your talk show, in terms of any upcoming guests that we should look for in the month of December or anything of that nature?
Yeah, I want to continue to give the believers a platform, because I think there's so many of the believers that are doing so much, and you know, when they think about the Muslims, the Muslim men in particular, you know, they just want us to secure them, or that's it, you know, they think to just sell bean pies, but they're highly into young people. You know, it's funny because I think about your children and other people's children, and you know, some of the believers at the mosque. You know, these are young adults with their own families now, and they're very successful, and they are highly intelligent. And it's like it needs to be spotlighted. I had a wonderful show because of you with some young male school teachers. I
Yeah.
mean, and I definitely have to have them back. But these young brothers were dynamic, and I think some of them probably are married, or you know, they have their own families and things. So, man, so as far as the plans in December,
but they also make you feel old, though.
They do, they really do, and it's funny, you know. But yeah, but it's cool though, because I think I still look just as young as some of them, you know. So, but as far as upcoming shows, I spoke with Dr. Powers a couple of weeks ago, and he was joking with me. He said, "You had me on once, but you know, you don't want me back no more. You can kick me to the." So, Dr. Powers, Brother Neil used to always say, "We can have him on every day, and it's not enough." So it's like, and it's incredible that he could cover so many topics.
Yeah.
And so I definitely wanted to bring him. He's coming back. It's a sister out of New York, Malika Ali. She deals with health and whatnot, to the point where you know, it's like, you know, well, what can we eat there? You know, what can we do? You know, but it's not just the physical health; it's the mental health also. And she's such a down to earth sister. And so I definitely looking for two Brown sisters, the daughters of the late Oscar Brown Jr., Maggie Brown and Africa Brown. They're scheduled to be on as well in the month of December. And so, and it's a lot of times in the tradition of Munir, I shoot from the hip. I don't know who I'm gonna have on. It depends on what spirit I'm in, you know. But I always want to make sure it's every now and then it may be a light-hearted show. I'm using air quotes, but there are enough of those shows around there. There's enough shows talking about politics, things of that sort, and those things will come in as far as, you know, the topics that we're addressing. But what I try to address, what I like to go after, is the foundational topics and information that affect us, that we can deal with. That way we can address those other issues. But if we're not right mentally, physically, and spiritually, we're not gonna be able to handle all that other stuff. And so it's important for me, and it's personal for me, you know, one, you know, that mental health aspect is very important, making sure that the believers of Elijah Muhammad in particular have a platform they can feel comfortable enough to come on and talk to, and just being able to continue this work, and being able to amplify the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I just feel that the Elevated Talk radio show is important. And as I've been saying lately, you know, as far as I guess a new commercial, we're gonna elevate the conversation on Elevated Talk, and so that's what I want to do.
Well, I certainly appreciate the title. I think that's the 7th Surah, Elevated Places.
I got to give a shout out to Dr. Sister Ava Muhammad, because it did kind of because she actually did a radio show on WVON called Elevated Places. And that sister, as most women, she was definitely dynamic. And so it's a spinoff from that, but definitely we want to elevate the thought.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you. This was,
That's it?
Well, I mean, we could keep talking.
It went so fast,
No, but you got work to do.
Yeah, I know you got work to do.
But no, this was great. This was, like you said, we have been talking about this for a little while, and I had to kind of nail you down because you're such a busy person, and our schedules have often conflicted. So this was a perfect day to have you on. And although some people may say, well, Aginah, I thought your podcast was supposed to focus on women and leadership. I too, however the spirit moves me is how I operate. I believe that, there's always something to learn, and I want to make sure that I highlight good people who are doing positive things. And so that's the premise of this podcast, Light It Up, Lead, Inspire, Transform, and Empower, because I hope that with every guest that I have, that there's a message that's conveyed and that someone can gain some type of clarity about something with whatever topic that is, for each individual episode. So I appreciate the fact that you gave me a walk, or gave the listeners a walk down memory lane, so to speak, into how you came to be and have gotten involved in your various endeavors. And of course, you always have open invitation.
If I could say, I'm sorry, but it still ties in, even though the show is focused on women. But you need that strong male presence. We got to make sure.
Absolutely.
Because look at it this way: you have 2 daughters, you have a son. You got to be selfish in the sense that you got to make sure you got 2 daughters now. So you got to make sure, those young men out there, they're going to bring somebody home eventually. So we got to make sure that we as men are doing what we should be doing to engage with these young men and the older men, and whoever, just make sure our men are in the right frame of mind, because, hey, it's real out here. You have a son, you just don't want him bringing anybody on. So we have to look at this in a selfish sense.
Oh, yes.
So we got to, and there's nothing wrong with being selfish in that instant, because again, we got to see, who these, we ain't bringing nobody on. We remember how your father was, Jack, he didn't play no games. He didn't play he played 0 games when it came, he loved hard, and anybody can get it, especially when it came to Munir Muhammad, so. But one thing about it, I can bear witness that he loved his family, and he showed that. And so, he wanted the best for him. And as he used to tell you, and he would tell any young lady, that if a man is interested in you and he don't believe in God, a God that's above him, then we got a problem there. And he don't have a place in your life. So that's the same message that we sending. Yeah, we're God's too, but we got to understand that there's somebody above us too. So, it's a proper structure that we have to go after. So, for the women out there that may be upset, she is the executive producer, so she gets something to say.
Well, actually, I will say this. Now, 30% of my listeners and viewers are men, but it seems like the popular episodes are whenever I have a male guest. So, so there you go.
I hope I bring in a lot of views then.
But one thing, something that this may be a little unconventional here, but it's, I don't know. I can do what I want to do right now, but you are in the studio, and right over your shoulder is a portrait of my father. So if you don't mind just kind of like angling, which I was going to do that earlier, but
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have, where the seat is, it wouldn't have worked for the entire episode. But I just felt like I needed to have that picture in the shot.
But just so people know that he's watching over my shoulder, making sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So that's the point of that picture being up, and on behalf of the organization, because that is yours now.
Yes.
It's technically on loan.
It is on loan.
I appreciate it if nobody else does, because it's a reminder of what we're doing here, because this was the brainchild even to being in this place right now. You know, we would go downtown and have to lobby for time, but Brother Munir had the foresight to have our own place, so nobody can tell it. That's why he frowned upon renting. You know, he was talking about ownership. And so to have this, but never sitting on that victory, going on to the next thing. That's why when I mentioned about, you know, expanding, you know, into an additional studio, or you know, from C.R.O.E TV to C.R.O.E Media, it was a vision. And by Allah's, you know, grace and mercy, you know, I plan on making sure that vision is fulfilled.
Well, if nobody has told you lately, I appreciate you for everything that that you have done and what you continue to do. And I probably need to go ahead and end this before the tears start coming down my eyes right now. But this was good. I needed this. So thank you very much for indulging in a conversation with me today. And like I was saying, you do have an open invitation to come back. I assume I have an open invitation to come back to Elevator Talk.
Yes, ma'am. I think what she's trying to say is, am I included in that December lineup? I think we can make that happen then. But if I can say anything and just leave the audience with this, you know, again, Brother Munir didn't just give advice to his biological children, but to also any young man or young woman that would listen, or whoever it was. But he would always say, any problems that you have, the solution can be found in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I stand on that. I believe in it. It is why I'm here right now. It's what's giving me life. And that's how I'm going to stay, you know, alive mentally and physically, I hope, you know, with that. So I really appreciate, you know, this opportunity. And I got to give it to you, because this is not easy work. You trained yourself to do this, these podcasts. You train yourself how to do the equipment. You with the editing and everything, and it's very professional. So I salute you and I applaud you. But I want them children to help you more in this production. But that's another subject. You know, there's value in what we're doing. I saw a podcast with this brother, I can't think of his name, but he was talking to this comedian. I know we're getting off to something else, B. Simone. But as I'm looking at it, he have all of these sponsors, and it's like there's a market for this type of thing if you see it, and it's enough out here. When you go in the grocery store and you go down that bread aisle, there's about 20 different brands of bread. Somebody is getting each one of those type of breads, even that nasty raisin bread. So somebody is getting something. So there's enough out here for everybody, but we have to see the value of it, why it's still in front of us. Same thing with those that are no longer here. We have to see the value of them before they're no longer here, so we can't say, man, I wish I could have, would have, should have. So, you know, we just have to stay focused and continue doing this work.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Light It Up. And to the listening and viewing audience, please make sure that you share this episode with your family and friends. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast, where we are on all platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel, Light It Up Podcast. So until next time, don't forget to continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LightItUpPodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.